Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is SprinkleBeard. I don't know why my eye has been bothering me for 2 days. Welcome. I'll be your host for today's video. We stream every day over at twitch.tv/SprinkleBeard from 1 p.m., 6 p.m., or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are continuing our champ reviews and finally finishing off the rare dwarves today. And I'm pretty excited about that, actually. Today we get to talk about some really fun champions, so let's dive into it. Please understand that the reviews here are based upon my own personal opinion. I'm going to be making up stats that I find to be relevant for champions. There's no official stat guide that supports what I'm saying. And then I will try to explain all the skills for the newer players. Please understand, I'm kind of bad about this because this is all I talk about all day. There's times I do forget to identify certain things, or I might talk in shorthand because it makes more sense to me. If you need anything clarified, right, just start down in the comment section below. So, today we start off with the wonderful, the lovely, the Bulwark. Bulwark was actually one of my favorite dwarves when I first started playing. I like the fact that he was heavily armored. He has this huge, heavy flail. Yeah, let's get into him. So, he is a defense champion. So, I do expect to see the HP a little bit lower than average because I expect more stats into the defense. So, instead of the 16,000 that I would like to see here, I'm going to see 13, a little closer to 14,000. So, that's decent. Obviously, it is lower than I want. Defense, I'd like to see over 1,200. We get that. Attack, I'd like to see around 1,000. It's not a big deal. Nothing in his kit is based off of attack, so that's fine. Speed is below average. I would like to see 100. It's 97. He has increased resist and increased accuracy. Both of these things are valuable. He does have an aura skill, which I do appreciate, and it's in all battles. All allies gain 17% defense. This is a really good starter, right? Like if you were to pull and you one of your first void shards ever, and if you got Bulwark, you should be very happy. He's not necessarily top tier, but he has a very good use for that we're about to get into. When attacked, has a 30% chance of extending the duration of all debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn. What this means is that he's actually amazing at boss killing, or if you have a debuff team, he's amazing at making sure those debuffs really stick on. He's best into other AoE attackers, right? So if you think of your Skull Crowns, your Dragons, your Fire Knight, your Ice Golem, people who are constantly just attacking the entire party, this is a terrific way to extend those debuffs until you get legendaries that have a way to guarantee those debuffs, or certain epic champions also have extensions. I'm sure there's rares. Maybe I just haven't come across them, or I'm not thinking of them off the top of my head right now. But this is a really good skill, especially on a tank, right? Somebody who wants to take a beating. The more they beat on him, the more his debuffs extend. Now let's get into his debuffs. Attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance to place an HP burn, and eventually gets up to that 100% chance. This skill is actually quite impressive and does do a lot of damage. I was really shocked with my Bulwark. I did not build him for crit chance or crit damage, and just building him kind of like pure defense, he hit quite hard to the point that I started giving him more crit. And I think he sat around like 30 or 40% crit. It was noticeable when he crit. It was very noticeable when he crit. Eventually I ended up stripping him because when I moved him out of my clan boss team, he just had some really amazing gear on him that I had to remove. It just had to go on to somebody a little bit better. So with that being said, is A1 Hefty Flail, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 15% chance of placing a 15% weaken debuff. Now this is the lesser weaken, unfortunately. The greater weaken is 25%, would have flames on the head. But it's still a weaken, right? It still causes the target to take an additional 15% damage no matter what. And this applies to all damage sources from what I understand. So the 3% from HP burn, from things like poison, stuff like that, or just helping out your teammates to do more damage on every single attack makes this very useful. What makes this even better is that he has 2 debuffs, weaken and HP burn, which super duper synergize with his passive. These are both debuffs that you would want lasting longer. That would be perfectly fine. Right now there's an event going on, and one of the champions that you can fuse is Magnor, a demon who heavily relies on HP burn and can spread debuffs. Bulwark would be that perfect accompanying champion to really help. Him having 2 buffs, Magnor being able to spread those debuffs, the fact that when you attack back, and you would potentially try to get rid of Bulwark first, I think. I'm not sure yet who you would attack in that combo, but anyways, if you tried to attack Bulwark, you'd have a chance of these debuffs extending, which is not great. Bulwark absolutely gets an A+ from me, maybe even S tier. He's amazing. He served me very well. He's amazing into anything like a boss, right? He will be super amazing. In the arena, he does perfectly fine. Even though he's a tank and he doesn't really have anything that helps him tank, really. Maybe the debuff extending, right? If something had like an attack down and then they attack him, there would be the chance of that extending. Even though he does need a type of support, like a healer or a defense up, something like that, that would just make him much better, right? Just the longer he lasts, the more the enemy gets debuffed. He served me so incredibly well. Where he's also really best at is Clan Boss. And if you keep his HP low, Clan Boss should try to target him more often than not. And this is a way that you can kind of cheese the Clan Boss into constantly attacking him. And if he doesn't get off his skills, it's really not the end of the world either. You can let the rest of your team be getting off their skills, keeping him alive. Keeping him alive, dealing damage, because basically his one skill would have that 30% chance to go off. All right, let's move on. We got Painsmith. I like these little, like, darker dwarves. They're more my aesthetic. He looks like a little, like, demonic version. So he's an attack dwarf. 14,000 out of the 16,000 health I would like to see. A little over the 1,200 attack, so that's not bad. I would like to see closer to 1,000 defense, so that's not great, not terrible. Speed is in a good place. He does get the extra crit damage and has extra resistance. Increases ally attack in all dungeons by 21%. Very useful. I shouldn't say very useful. Useful because it's in all dungeons. So what I like about auras like this is it really frees up how often you can use them. Unfortunately, again, ally attack's not used all that often. Helpless Victim. Attacks one enemy. Damage increased by 15% if the target has no active buffs. So it basically has like a built-in weaken here. And I do like the fact that it's if they have no buffs, he does more damage. This could get real nasty, right? If he was your last person to go. So if you broke their defense or put a weaken on them, maybe both, you might be able to one-shot somebody pretty easily. I don't know if I have him. Apparently I have him. I would be curious to mess around with him just based off of that skill alone. It's probably not amazing. I do want to put that out there. Might be fine in the arena. He could be a decent boss killer as well, right? Some of the bosses like Ice Golem never buff themselves. Dragon never buff themselves. This could be a good skill for that. Attacks one enemy. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. Places a block debuff on this, block debuff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack kills an enemy. That actually really puts him very good into Ice Golem territory. That would be great to have a void attacker that would help you clear out through waves. This would help you get through some of the waves before they buff up. That's real interesting, though. That's real interesting that not only do you block a revive, but you block debuffs on yourself afterwards. That skill would also be really useful in the arena. So right now I have 2 arena skills. / Ice Golem would be an amazing place for him at the moment. And then Pickaxe Crunch just attacks one enemy. I'm curious about him. He's not amazing, but he's definitely not bad. What I also kind of see him as, he's kind of, in a sense, a rare version of Armiger, who is an uncommon that we heavily encourage people to... He's one uncommon that's fine to take the 6-star. his kit is so unique that a lot of players, even at high levels, end up using him for one reason or another, or some people use him in Spider. It's one of those things where he would be interesting enough. This champion would not be good on Spider. Like that skill wouldn't be terrible, I guess, but this is not something you would build up for Spider. Okay, if you lie down, that's fine. Good kitty cat. Thank you. What do you have in your fur, bud? All right, well, listen, I'm doing a YouTube... Oh, well, I got it. Yeah, hi, buddy. Sorry, doting on the cat. Overall, I like his kit. I will mention that he's probably a little on the squishier side, right? He's got minus 2,000 HP, minus 200 defense, so he probably would not feel tanky. I would be curious to use him. I would be very curious to see him in the arena. Because 100 speed's not bad. So if you get to go first, potentially if you get that defense down and then slapping with him afterwards, I'd be very curious to know how much that A3 truly scales. I'll have to look into that at some point. Dilgol! And he looks like a little Dilgol. I don't know what's going on with the beard. It's kind of cool, but also real weird. Interesting. All right, so we have another attack champion. 15,000 HP, that's decent. It's not in a bad place, just slightly under 16,000. Attack is less than I would like to see. I'd like to see it at 1,200 and then 1,000 here. So okay stats, little less on the attack side. Little slow as well. He's below 100. He gets the crit damage bonus, but nothing else. So let's look at his things. Big Game Hunter. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 40% chance of placing a 60% defense break for 2 turns. I like things like that. I would like to see more things like that in the game where it's maybe like, you know, an attack that attacks 3 times has a better chance of it happening, and I'd like to see it on something other than the A1. A1 seems to be obnoxiously common. A3s almost always seem to be these gigantic skills of, like, you know, giant AoE. So I think this is a really cool thing. Unfortunately, this is also very dated. I don't think that this, unless, again, it has, like, really amazing scaling because his attack is a bit lower than I would like to see. I will say, though, he's a Void champion, so maybe that doesn't matter as much. Actually, I would almost argue in a sense it probably matters more because you want him hitting harder. Anyways, we'll have to see. Shot Spray. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of decreasing their accuracy. I like things like that. Decreased accuracy is always good, especially like on a Void champion. So what's great about Void champions, you can take them into any content whatsoever, and they will be useful. I think offensively, they are a lot better than they are defensively. So that's something where Bulwark, in a sense, might be kind of bad. But what's nice about them defensively, you can bring them into anything. You don't have to worry about the affinity matching, so that they have their own set of usefulness. But lowering your opponent's accuracy is very good, right? That stops them from landing debuffs on you. This eventually gets up to a very respectable 85% chance of being placed, and decently low cooldown. The fact that that's attacked 2 times, this is attacked 3 times. This is something where he would be perfectly fine in Fire Knight. So right now there's a Fire Knight tournament going on. Anybody who's looking for a Fire Knight gem, this guy is not amazing, but he could be an option for you to start building a Fire Knight team with. Attacks 1 enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a decreased speed buff. So yeah, he actually seems like a Void champion designed for Fire Knight. With the 3 attack and the 2 attack, this would help you get through Fire Knight shield pretty consistently. This 2 attack helps with the waves. This 1 attack hits, 1 enemy 3 times. Again, I'm really curious in these Void Dwarves. I don't really like the way he looks. I'm not also a big gun fan. I would be very tempted to build him, though. This kit is interesting enough that I would build him. I wouldn't even mind building him. He's fascinating to me. Is he great? No. Stat-wise, he's underperforming in a lot of things. I would be curious, though, with like a name like Big Game Hunter as a skill, right? If they up the scaling for it. But yeah, he's not bad at all. And then Kurzad. I loved Kurzad when he first came out, but here you can see, looking at his stats, 12,000 and 870 defense. Both are extremely low. He does have a respectable attack. It goes up to the 1340s. Speed is a little slow. All the other stats are fine, except he does get some bonus accuracy. I like Kurzad a lot, and I like the way that he looks. Like the red hair on the black skin is a really good concept with the red runes or scars, whatever you want to call them. I guess they're branding, if I had to guess. Built into him. I am fully aware, too, that he's a recolor of the first champion we reviewed. But let's get into his skill set so you guys get to see why I like him so much. Places a 58% increased accuracy buff on all allies. And then he attacks all enemies. Love that. Absolutely love that. I will say I'm a little bit worried that that's the direction the rest of the game is going to go. That they're going to put that on a lot more champions. And I hope they do a good balance of both, right? Some champions that can do that before they attack. But I hope a lot of the other champions are still balanced around. No, they have to attack to land that debuff. This in this case is a buff. He then has a 75% chance of placing a 30% defense down. So even though it's only 30%, it's still amazing skill because you get that 50% increase buff. This could be very, very good for players that, if you're struggling to meet accuracy in certain dungeons, I would not put him in like Clan Boss, for instance. But where he really does shine is things like Spider or any of the other dungeons. Giving your team an accuracy buff of 50% means that your accuracy, you might not have to stress getting it to really high numbers, or if you're just learning how accuracy works in this game. So for anybody who's newer, this is something I like to try to be good about in videos. Your accuracy is the determining factor if your debuff lands. So first things first, it'll go by the percentage. So in this case, 75% chance. Does it land? Does it not land, right? And then after that, it does a check. What is your accuracy versus your opponent's resistance? So if they have a higher resistance, you're more often than not going to land it, or they'll resist the debuff. However, right now there is an accuracy and speed meta, right? The more accuracy you have, the more you're landing your debuffs. The more you're landing your debuffs, the better you feel for gameplay. That's what Kurzad's going to bring to your team. He's going to bring this accuracy buff. There is not a lot of these in the game. They're slowly getting added more in, but there's not a whole lot at the moment. He's one of the few champions that has it. He could be a great support in dungeons for that reason. And he's an attack champion, so he'll put out a respectable amount of damage. Attacks all enemies. Each critical hit fills this champion's turn meter by 7.5. And then it's just pure damage scaling in there. So I really like that. On this skill, I did miss that 75% chance does get up to a 100% chance. So that's very good. But this often you'll use this and he'll get another turn right away. It's pretty amazing. Again, this is a really good skill setup for something like Spider, right? You have 2 AoE attacks. This one increases accuracy and decreases their defense. Amazing for Spider. A1 attacks one enemy, places an extra hit if the attack is critical, and the extra hit placed deals 30% or puts a speed decrease on them for 2 turns. So I want to say too, that extra hit, right, has an accuracy of 100%. This would also make him really good for Fire Knight. Yes, these 2 other attacks would just help you clear out the waves, which would be good on its own. But the fact that he would be increasing the accuracy of your party members, the fact that he builds up his own turn meter by attacking, the fact that he decreases the speed of Fire Knight, this could be a very good way for you to control Fire Knight. If you just have a lure, or if you just have a Cold Heart, decreasing his speed can be very, very valuable. Overall, I will say all the voids I liked or I'm interested in enough, right? I don't think any of them are super amazing, super S tier. As much as I love like Bulwark and Kurzad, I would put them closer to that like A tier in terms of what they do. But yeah, we have a lot of good amongst all these dwarves that are void. Very impressed. I'm a little sad that their defense values are really low because like all the dwarves here are like heavily armored or like I guess Kurzad makes sense for having low defense since he's like not heavily armored. I don't know. I think of dwarves as more defensive creatures more than, you know, heavy attackers, but maybe that's me misunderstanding mythology. But yeah, lots of gems here in the dwarf faction for their void specifically. And then when we look through their spirits, Master Butcher was quite the shiner as well. Guys, I want to thank you very much for watching. That's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. But of course, until that next time, ta-ta.